Yeah, so we're here, and it's just,
Well, I'm realizing I'm pretty short, and so they may not see me on that side, so this might be a better side.
yeah, part of it, you know, and usually nobody really sits back in here,
Good, that's fine.
you know, and as I say, we might have a dozen people,
Right.
so.
Okay. Well, perfect.
And usually everybody comes kind of like like
Right on
a
time.
minute between a minute before and 10 minutes after. So. One of the things that I tried to do with the way that we're doing the service is I made it a little shorter, because that's what you might do with attention span issues. But I also, like with the handout, we usually don't have this, where it shows what pages we're on, because some people, like, they want to know what's coming up next, and so it's trying to accommodate for all those, for people who feel uncomfortable for whatever reason it might be. And yep, we have a little, basket of fidgets out there.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So, it's just, it's modeling, and especially because the two congregations have unified, and just microphone maybe on already. And they're going to be redoing the building a bit finer. So part of it is an opportunity to say, what do we need to make sure that we pay attention to? So
Yeah,
it's like, okay, let's start identifying things and talking about it now.
that's smart. Take advantage of your redo.
Yeah. But both buildings are level in. There's Lincoln, Nebraska. The historical landmark building, and the front entry was at least 20 steps. And there was a entry through the back parking lot, and you could get this really old chair that people were really scared of. But we couldn't replace it because the staircase was too narrow, and so keeping it was grandfathered in that we could keep it, but if you replace it, they'd have to rebuild the whole staircase. And if they wanted to put it in an elevator, and then more of a lift, $40 million. 75 members. I mean, it's just like, yeah. So, anyways, okay. Let's see.
Is the handout out on the table?
Mm-hmm. That's this one, and this one we haven't handed out yet. We thought, because it's really at the end of my sermon.
Okay.
It's a short sermon.
Well, actually, that's good right there. I can just look at it if I need to. That
Right.
works.
But then, then we've got our,
Okay.
we've got the song sheet, and then, oh, he's written a lot of stuff in. Okay. For things. All right, and you can see that most people usually sit.
That's probably where I would sit too if I weren't doing this.
And what we do is, when we're up at the meeting, we can take our masks off, and so feel free to do that as well.
I was going to ask because normally in interpretation you would.
You need facial, yes.
Usually the one person in the room has it off. So yeah.
Yeah. So
you're okay with that.
up here we all have to take them
Okay.
off.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. And I do like to start on time. So. And then there were like 4 documents that I was sent, and I wasn't sure. I printed them all out. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with them. But if there's,
That was very helpful. I just was able to look through it and see what it was kind of.
there was that stuff that Jay sent me, kind of different forms that I filled out one, but there was like tax forms and stuff.
Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just a contractor. I don't.
Right. Okay. And so, are you also the person that will be able to do it next week over at Kleiner, or?
I think so.
Okay, because
Yeah.
Rabbi Appel is going to be here, so we have on Applebee's Appel. So it's the same time, but a different location.
Right.
So we unified the 2 campuses temporarily.
And she be here.
She'll be here tonight.
Okay.
So yeah. In fact, that's her at the doorway. All right. you guys got quiet fast. Shabbat shalom to everyone. It's good to see you. So tonight there is a handout. So in honor of Jewish Disability Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month, we have a handout. So, you know, for those for whom it helps to know what's coming next, we have a handout. With that, we have a song sheet that's inside. And also wanted to let you know that we have a sign language interpreter tonight, Michelle Simoneau. So let's welcome her. So thank you for being here tonight. We're trying to model tonight all the things we are currently able to do for people that might have disabilities or different kinds of needs. There's some things we can't do yet, but we're trying to show all the things that we're currently able to do. So thank you for joining us tonight. And we're going to actually do service in the page order of the prayer book, so it's not going back and forth and back and forth. So we actually are going to begin with candle lighting, and Julie Hoffman is going to come up and light the Shabbat candles for us with a reading, English reading of your choice first. And that's on page 121 of the readings. Page 120 is the candle lighting.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be amongst those who kindle light.
Bravo.
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat shalom, and thank you very much. We continue on page 124 with the reading at the bottom of the page, and let's read together. May the door of the synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of the synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May the synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. We now turn to our the insert in our handout, which is the song sheet, with a Hine Matov medley, and of course the Hine Matov translated means how wonderful it is for all of us to be sitting together tonight. Yes.
Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, יללה יללה לה לה, הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, יללה יללה לה לה, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
And we continue on our song sheet with the singing of Shir Chadash from Psalm 96, and it's a combination of Hebrew and English.
שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני שיר חדש. Sing unto God all the earth a new song, I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along, all the earth a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. I will sing unto God a new song.
We continue on page 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish that separates out one part of our service from another.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
Amen.
בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה בשירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן.
And we continue with our call to worship on page 146, the Baruch Hu. If it's comfortable to rise in body, please do so. If not, in spirit.
Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la.
Please be seated. And we continue on page 148. And before we read the Ma'ariv, Aravim together in the Hebrew, I invite you to think about what it is in the natural world that you think is just totally awesome anytime you think about it or you witness it. We read together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidbaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach she'arim, ובתבונה משנה עיתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים, במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו, בורא יום ולילה, כולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור, ומעביר יום ולילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Now on page 151, we praise God for the gift of the Torah, that is evidence of God's love for us. And let's read together the English at the top of the page. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Page 152, we now declare the oneness, the uniqueness, the unity that is the mystery of the universe that we call God. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Please be seated, and we continue with Ve'ahavta on page 154. Please join us.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha ub'chol nafshecha ub'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadivarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בהם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
And we continue on page 158 with the singing of Michra Mocha, our song of freedom.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אליינו ואמרו, זה אליינו ואמרו. Adonai yimloch leolam vaed. Adonai yimloch leolam vaed. V'chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, norat tehilot oseh pele, norat tehilot oseh pele. V'ne'emar, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
And we continue page 161, an English reading for the Hashkivenu prayer at the top of the page. Let's read together. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We turn to our Amidah, our central prayer, first with a reading on page 165. And if it's comfortable for you to do so, please rise in body, if not in spirit alone. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. And we'll continue on page 164, 66, and 68.
Adonai sechatai kikach ufiai tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor והנורא, El Elyon, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה רב מושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכפר חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשמי עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך מליט ומחיה, ומצליח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה המתים.
We continue at the top of page 171 and read together. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence like lightning
illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see, wherever we gaze, that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. And we continue our prayers silently to page 180, and feel free to be seated whenever you are ready. Sonim refi, iul ratsonim refi, vegion libi lefanecha, Adonai tzuri vegoali. Oh, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you. O God, my rock and my redeemer. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru, ve'imeru, Amen.
It's at this time in our service where we offer a prayer for healing, a Misha Barak for those in need of healing of the body, the mind, or the spirit. And we turn to page 371. In the middle of the page, we find the Misha Barak. And in addition to all of us who have had to live in really abnormal conditions for the last couple of years, there are some people who we've been asked to mention who need even more prayers than the rest of us tonight. And so we mention the names of Joy Lewis, Lucy Silva, Christine Weil, Minna Bat Yentel, Mordechai Ben Dina, Rowan Hausman, Anna Carlo, Judy Roheim, Fredel Tamara Bat Liba Bela, Menucha Pesa Bat Charni Umoshe, Yosef Ben Fega, Gretchen Haynes, and Dorian Reeson. Are there any other names that you would like to mention at this time that you know need our prayers for healing?
Fred Lucas.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Judith from Bretton and California.
Thank you. Of course, we keep the Bullman family in our hearts and prayers tonight as well.
Bolstein, Rav Miriam Nechama, Rafa Sarah, Yisrael Ben Freda, Rafa Leah, Bat Daniel Ben Sipora, Ruth Bat Shmuel.
Thank you.
Storm Matthews, Chief Shirel Parfait Dardar and her family, Penny Greer, Leslie Barnard, Ron and Lindy Johnson, Karen Sue Amon, Don Manis, Kenneth Manis, Courtney Smith, and Rabbi Michael Lerner.
We think about those also whose names perhaps we chose not to mention aloud but keep in our hearts. We think about those whose names we probably don't know, people that we may or may not see living on the streets in our communities, or more likely living in the trees, in the fields. We think about those that may have a roof over their head but are alone and lonely inside of their homes. We think about those who have been the first responders and the essential workers all year, and all of those who are related to work in the medical field, whether it's the doctors and the nurses, the technicians, those who work in the hospital labs, those who work in the hospital cafeterias, all of those who have helped to keep us safe and healthy, and also need prayers for their own strength and healing. So as we join together in the middle of page 371, we pray for healing of the body, the mind, and the spirit.
Mi sheberach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So we're going to have to pass this out at some point in time. When should we do it? Before I start? Okay. So we're going to pass something out before I start because we're going to read it when I'm done. So we'll do that right now. Just take a minute. So don't read it yet. I know it's hard to resist. So at the 2013 URJ Biennial in San Diego, the URJ president, Rabbi Rick Jacobs, said, "The URJ's pledge to audacious hospitality includes a firm commitment to help our congregations become the safe, welcoming, and loving spiritual homes they are meant to be, so that every individual, regardless of ability, feels that they were created B'Tselem Elohim, in God's image." Yet the reality is that there are Jews with physical, developmental, emotional, intellectual, and other disabilities who do not have the opportunities to participate in the richness of Jewish life, because multiple barriers still exist in attitudes and access. Over and over again, individuals with disabilities will say the same thing. All I have ever wanted is to belong, to know that I am not alone, to be loved for who I am. So how do we make our house a house of prayer for all people? As a congregation, we can be more welcoming and inclusive if we provide assistive listening devices and sign language interpreters, not just in our sanctuary, but in all of our spaces. If we provide magnifying sheets, large print and braille editions of our prayer books, Torah commentaries, and congregational written communications. If we have adequate spaces for wheelchairs, wider doors, access ramps, and Torah reading tables. If we also reduce the height of our sinks and drinking fountains and some of our mezuzot. Synagogues have made some progress, but there's still a long way to go. There is often resistance to inclusiveness. In addition to physical barriers, we may need to overcome the barriers of our attitudes toward people with disabilities, such as pity, fear, embarrassment, or guilt. We may exhibit curiosity or avoidance. We may feel repelled by those who appear, speak, or act differently. We may have an attitude that prevents us from seeing past the disability and recognizing the strengths, abilities, and fullest humanity of the person. The exclusion of the other is a deep force, and one which our tradition warns against numerous times. Over and over again, the Torah teaches us to love rather than to hate or oppress the strangers, because we were strangers in the land of Egypt. We may be afraid to say or do the wrong thing and embarrass ourselves or be rejected by people with disabilities. We also may shy away from discussing and problem solving in a constructive manner. For example, when a child's behavior in the sanctuary is disruptive, or I could say an adult's behavior as well. I'd like to share a story with you. It's a story that I shared with you last year about Pamela Schuler. You may remember her from our ISJL event a year ago, fall. But I'd like to share it with you again. Pamela is a comedian, a speaker, and an advocate who blogs about growing up with Tourette's syndrome, a neurological disorder. She has said, "I was on the other end of the inclusion talk, which was about how to include me, a teen who made loud, uncontrollable noises. I have hundreds of stories about not being included and about inclusion conversations that happened in a way that made it sound as though the community couldn't do what it would normally do because I was there. Inclusion was sometimes worded like a step back or a concession the community had to make in order to include me." She writes, "One story in particular stands out. In 9th grade, I moved away from my home in Indiana to attend a boarding school in Vermont. The school was not specifically for kids with disorders like mine, but rather a small, caring, creative community, willing to take a chance on me. One of my Tourette's symptoms was a loud and consistent barking noise, almost like the beat of a metronome. One day in math class, I started the noises, and they didn't stop. The class was clearly unable to continue, and I was prepared, as in the past, to be asked to leave the room and come back when my Tourette's was under control. Instead, my math teacher, a musician, picked up his guitar and said, "Let's write a song about math." He used my Tourette's as a metronome, and we ended up writing an entire CD of math songs. My barking in the background seemed more like a welcome accompaniment than a reason we couldn't do what we had planned. In that moment, inclusion took a sharp turn in my mind. When Pamela was a Jewish youth professional for the National Federation of Temple Youth, also known as NIFTY, she tried to teach the idea that inclusion is not about what we can't do because we are accommodating teens with different needs, but what we get to do because of our community. Because our community is growing with our members. When a teen with disabilities joined her youth group, Region, she saw it as an opportunity for all teens to understand that our differences make our community stronger. It's a fact of life. The Jewish community consists of typical and atypical children and adults, the same as the national average of 20%, or 1 in 5 people. February is Jewish Disability Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month. It's a time to increase our awareness of the needs, strengths, opportunities, and challenges of people with disabilities in our community. And more importantly, a month in which to go from awareness to greater sensitivity, and from there to greater inclusiveness. And that includes the language we use. Language is as awkward and imprecise as it is powerful. Can't we replace words such as disabilities and impaired with terms such as different abilities or diff-abilities? This changes our focus and attitude from what a person is unable to do to what they are able to do. I hope that the doors of our synagogue will be open to the entire Jewish community. I hope we can overcome our discomfort to truly welcome into our community those individuals and families with different needs, to be able to see the image of God in all human beings. In conversation with those with disabilities, I hope we will examine our facility, technology, programs, language, and attitudes, and continue the journey to inclusion so that everyone can truly feel that they belong. The process of becoming more inclusive is slow, but as we learn in Pirkei Avot, it is not incumbent on us to finish the task, but it is incumbent on us to start the task and to make real progress. And so tonight I'd like to end with a prayer. That's the handout that John gave you. And we read, responsively. Let us pray for all of God's people, for the people who are blind and cannot see, and for those who can see but are blind to the people around them.
God, in your mercy, help us to touch each other.
For people who are deaf and cannot hear, and for those who can hear but are deaf to the cries of others.
God, in your mercy, help us respond to each other.
For people who move slowly because of accident, illness, or disability, and for those who move too fast to be aware of the world in which they live.
God, in your mercy, help us work together.
For people who learn slowly, for people who learn in different ways, and for people who learn quickly and easily, but often choose ignorance.
God, in your mercy, help us to grow in your wisdom.
For families, friends, and caregivers who serve people with disabilities, and for those who feel awkward in their presence.
God, in your mercy, help us see each other with your eyes.
For people who feel isolated by their disabilities, and for people who contribute to that sense of isolation.
God, in your mercy, help us change our lives.
For all the people in your creation, that we may learn to respect each other and learn how to live together in peace and wholeness.
God, in your mercy, bind us together.
May the one who makes peace and wholeness in the high heavens make peace and wholeness for us, all Israel, and all who inhabit the earth.
Amen.
Amen. So we'll continue now with the Elenu, and if it's comfortable to do so, please rise in body, if not in spirit, as we open the ark.
586.
We are on page 586, and then we'll jump to page 591.
And I was talking with Lilia Berkowitz by text message a couple days ago, and I told her how much we miss Tessa, who helps me open the ark for the Elenu and dances in front of him. She said, you know, it's interesting you mentioned that. Tessa sometimes just all of a sudden starts to recite the Elenu and dances to it.
So if anybody under the age of 13 would like to come up and open the ark tonight, feel free to come up and help us open the ark. You don't have to, but if you would like to, yes, come on up. Because you know the grown-ups can't open the ark by themselves. That's kind of a secret, right?
עלינו לשבח אדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו למשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל העולם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Careful. One step at a time. Thank you, Noah. Please be seated. Our future. So we'll continue on page 595 as we prepare for the mourner's Kaddish. There are stars up above, so far away, we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. You find the Kaddish on page 598. On this Shabbat, we are sad to announce the recent death on Wednesday morning of Jim Bullman, the father of James and father-in-law of Amanda. And James, do you have other family members with you? Or just friends?
This is Bobby Chapman, past president, former professional, and Mary Chapman.
Okay, thank you. We are in a period of Shloshim for Eileen Burton and Virginia Gordon. We are in a period of Shana up to 1 year for Elaine Garver, Donald Ostern, Wallace Dunham, Michael Carpenter, Jimmy Brownleader, Mark Cohn, Lorraine Beverly Sclaver, Judy Waxman, Tibor Perze, Miriam Mimi Grossman, Elizabeth Saxey, Marvin Bender, Jerry Harold Chenevert, Sheila Parker, Francis Edelman, Jean London Eisenbach, Fred Cantor, Kieran Manger, Aileen Dampf, Inza Avram, and Megu Clegg. And between this Shabbat and next Shabbat, we are observing Yardsite's anniversary of deaths for Dorothy Arnold, Molly G. Chapman, Clara Cole, Rosalind Geisenberg, Domingo Gonzalez, Stanley Hirsch, Cam Kaplan, Gus Levy, Clarinda Saltz, Myrtle Sanchez, Alfred Sclaver, Natalie Abramson Weil, Rachel Watsky, and Harold Wormser. Are there any additional names to add to our Kaddish list or the pronunciation of any names to be corrected? Thank you.
Ofra Chaza, Emil Miller, and the 1-month-old grandson of Chief Shirel Parfait Dardar with the big name of Roman Atticus Daly.
We think of all those whose lives we have lost this past year due to COVID, and we are especially mindful of those who died in the Holocaust at this time and may not have anyone to say the Kaddish for them. Zikronam Livracha, may each of their memories be for a blessing as we now join as a congregation. And please either remain seated or stand according to your tradition for the Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Yalma dibra chirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chai echon v'yom echon, v'chai echon Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kaviv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mebarach, le'alam u'lalmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal, shemei dekudesha berichu, le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, daminran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, Ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, and together we say, Amen. Please be seated.
Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru Amen. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru Amen.
So do we have someone doing announcements tonight? Oh, good. Okay. come on up. Does someone have the announcements?
Oh, I don't
I don't have either.
know. Was I supposed to have them?
I didn't get the email.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I sent them to Jack because Jack was on the list. Sorry, I didn't have an updated list. My apologies. So, by the way, Kol Hakavod, Rabbi. This has been a lovely service. Thank you. And thank you so much, John. It's always a pleasure. Tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. there will be Torah study here at Jefferson Highway in person and on Zoom. At 10:30 a.m. there will be a Shabbat minyan at Kleinert. No, 10 a.m. I got put the wrong date in there, time in there anyway. At 10 a.m. there will be a Shabbat minyan at Kleinert Avenue in person only. At 10:45 a.m., there will be a Shabbat morning service here at Jefferson Highway in person and on YouTube. And is it still 5 p.m. for Havdalah? Okay. At 5 p.m. tomorrow, there will be a Havdalah on Zoom hosted by the Saxies. Links for all of these events were sent in the weekly email yesterday. Next Friday, February 25th at 6 p.m., there will be a Shabbat Shalem service, part 2, for Jewish Disability Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month at Kleinert Avenue. The services will be multi-access, in person, and on Zoom. Jennifer Moses will be the guest speaker for the Jewish Book Club on Sunday, February 20th at 3 p.m. via Zoom to discuss her new book, The Man Who Loved His Wife. It is a collection of short stories, some of which take place in Louisiana. Look for the link in the weekly email to join. Be sure to consider making a donation toward our Shlach Manot fundraiser. Your donation will help a Purim gift be delivered to everyone in the congregation and raise money for the religious school. There was a link in the emails this week. The first annual meeting of the Unified Jewish Congregation of Baton Rouge will be on Sunday, March 6th at Kleinert Avenue, beginning at 11:30 a.m. We will have a tree planting ceremony, lunch catered by Serops. Sign up is requested for that, and our congregational meeting. Look for links to sign up for lunch and to request babysitting. Anyone interested in helping with this year's corned beef sandwich sale, please call the office at either Jefferson Highway or Kleinert Avenue and let us know. The exact date is not set, but it will probably be late March, early April. Shabbat Shalom.
I imagine it's before Passover.
Nah, what does Passover have to do with corned beef sandwiches and rye bread?
Thank you, Rabbi Appel. And a special thank you to our sign language interpreter, Michelle. Really, it's for those of you who were able to watch her, and I tried to peek as much as I could, the beauty and the poetry of the language is just so impressive that it's like a ballet. So thank you very much. It's lovely to have you. And I understand that you will be joining us next Friday night over at Kleinert, so we get another treat with you. Thank you. Our closing song can be found on the back of your song sheet, Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Some of you know it. We often do it Shabbat mornings. And there's plenty of English in here too, and the melody just keeps repeating itself. So you'll get it. Please join in. The music in English by Rabbi Menachem Creditor, who is a conservative rabbi who is married to
Neshama Karlbach.
Neshama Karlbach. So it's a very musical duo. They now live in New York City. So please join us.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la. Olam chesed yibane, ya la 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 la. Olam chesed yibane, ya la 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 la. Olam chesed yibane, ya la 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 la. Olam chesed yibane, ya la 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 la. I will build this world from love, ya la 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 la. And you must build this world from love, ya la 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 la. And if we build this world from love, ya la 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 la, then God will build this world from love, ya la 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 la. Olam chesed yibane, ya la 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 la.
So, Shabbat Shalom to everybody. On the back of your handout, it shows you some of the things we were able to do tonight in terms of trying to make accommodations that are necessary for us to be truly inclusive. And we're going to end with a motzi. We have both egg challah rolls as well as gluten-free. The gluten-free is also dairy, nut, and soy-free. So you have options tonight. Your hand was up.
I was going to ask a question if I could.
Oh, questions are always...
What is the safe spot in the sanctuary?
Okay, so we have a safe spot in the back. So sometimes people just, don't want to be in a big group. And so there's a spot where they can still be in the sanctuary, but have a space that has, there's even tape on the floor. So it kind of contains you to a smaller space instead of feeling, imagine if our sanctuary was twice as big. This is a really pretty intimate sanctuary, but not all sanctuaries are. And so having a safe spot is a place where you can kind of stand and be and still be in the room. And then we had our calming room, which is down in the library, in case anybody needed, just to get out of the...
So if somebody's standing in a safe spot, you don't leave them alone? Is that what it
Yeah, pretty much. It just means I want to be able to stay in here so I can listen, but I need not to be mixed in with the bigger group, but I still want to be in the sanctuary. And imagine really big sanctuaries where you can have a place where you can still, because for us in our library, people can't hear what's going on in here or see us unless they go onto a computer with YouTube. So that's actually something to remember for people who want to be in separate, quieter spaces. That's one way of doing it, is having that technology. Any other questions? Thank you for your questions. I appreciate them. So let's do a motzi, and we will come with baskets, and you can choose between gluten-free and the egg bread. The kids motzi.
The
Yeah.
kids motzi. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Testing, testing. Testing, test. Yeah, these microphones aren't on. And they're supposed to be on at all times. Testing, 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 testing.
Okay, so you want me to put these in your office?
You can put them in your pocket.
That's what I was thinking, but you had said office, so I wanted to double check before I walked out.
You're not. Something's still not here. So I don't know. Those microphones are never supposed to be turned off. So.
Is that what happened with Parker the other week?
Why we couldn't hear her?
Yep.
No, because Mark and Steve went back and turned the volume up and they were getting. That sounds a little bit. Yeah. But this one is totally there.
Yeah, that one's totally off. That one's on.
I'm hearing that.
That one's on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing the banging, clicking noise coming from up above.
Yeah. So you should probably have somebody come in and take a look at the.
I think the guys are in the back right now. In the tech room.
So, but there's a big sign on it that says "Do not touch anything." Steve Kepler.
On the door, we have to go in there and turn the lights on.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anybody who I should know about in terms of Minion tomorrow? Who counts and who doesn't? That woman. Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. We'll see how this goes tomorrow. Now, any questions you have, if you want, you want John to come? You can also call us if you like to want to hear any questions. But,
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.